Bullshit.
It's the No BS Marketing Show. Our guest today is Priscilla McKinney, but first let's hit the bullseye. Whether you're a sports fan or not, you've been impacted by sports throughout your life. One example for generations has been how media and news organizations were created, managed, and grew. Sports coverage has been one of the two main drivers of sales, both advertising sales and circulation of newspapers for ever, especially local sports in small to mid-sized communities. Historically, mid to small market newspapers were built by sports coverage combined with local news. Think coverage of the school board meetings, controversial news about local government, etc. Then the internet hit and newspapers struggled to adapt and survive. Meanwhile, sports and news talk exploded on radio, online, etc. Opinions were everywhere, leading to a glut of outlets and commentators, or whatever you want to call these people that just go on and on and on. A lot of them are BSers. When there's a glut of anything, it also brings the inevitable reductions, because when there are winners, there are losers. This year, big-name sports news outlets like ESPN, Fox Sports, Sports Illustrated, and Bleacher Report all cut significant staff. Local sports coverage in small and mid-sized markets has suffered from budget cuts for years, and it hits close to home for me because the beauty of podcasting, you can stop and take a drink, because my brother Mike is a local news star, news reporter, writer on TV, etc. And he is a perfect example of how local sports coverage in small and mid-sized markets has suffered from budget cuts for years. He's had to juggle and wear multiple hats. There's way less coverage in those local communities. Well, Alex Mather and Adam Hansman see all this as an opportunity for their new sports news site called The Athletic. It's a San Francisco startup positioned as an alternative to the clutter. It has no ads because it's a subscription-based model priced at only $40 per year. Their coverage and service is focused on super sports fans, of which there are many. The Athletic currently focuses only on 4 markets, Chicago, Cleveland, Detroit, and Toronto, but you can bet they'll be trying to branch out to other sports-crazed markets like Pittsburgh. Mather and Hansman have no journalism experience, but both understand business and people, and specifically marketing. They believe the demand for quality local sports coverage far exceeds the supply. Their pricing is low enough that just about any diehard sports fan can afford it. The Athletic might just hit the bullseye. Let's see how it goes for them. Our guest today is Priscilla McKinney. What a great first episode. Priscilla is the president of Little Bird Marketing, a boutique marketing firm based in Joplin, Missouri. Her company serves the Midwest, specializing in delivering premier graphics and creative ideas to clients. She's a branding and digital marketing expert and a keynote speaker. In that first episode, she talked about how her parents are missionaries, so she grew up in Europe, spending time in Spain and Germany. She was in 4 different high schools in 3 different countries, and she brought up the great point that what it made was anytime something kind of crazy happened, she just, I won't be here next year anyway. So she was able to adapt. She has a degree in cultural anthropology, which, if you think about it, that's like marketing on steroids, because cultural anthropology talks a lot about people and cultures and trends. And one of the cliches that I like, even though I'm a big time strategy guy, is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And that's why we at Mass Solutions, and I'm sure Priscilla at Little Bird, focuses so much on making sure you communicate internally. Another claim to fame for Priscilla is she worked with Will Ferrell. They did stand-up at a bank. She's a serial entrepreneur. Her first company was a credit card processing company that she learned through jobs during paying for college, and grew to become a coveted person in the financial sector, started her own credit card processing company, continued to grow that. She then makes the bold move of purchasing a marketing company. She's psyched. She gets in there and realizes that the marketing company's culture and approach is not what she's all about. So she does the awesome thing of totally changing the culture in the company. Just when she's thinking, we got this, her studio burns down. So she then has to make a major decision and decide, do I go back and do this or not? And that's when she said, I'm doing it the right way. I'm doing it my way. I'm using this cultural anthropology. I'm using all of my background in art and design and marketing. And she turned it into Little Bird Marketing, which has grown and grown. Priscilla, welcome to part 2 of the No BS Marketing Show.
Thanks. This has been so much fun. I'm not sure what everything is going to be downhill from here after this morning.
Well, and whether you're a sports fan or not, what did you think about the Athletic and how they're trying to take that local sports mindset and see if they can hit the bullseye by focusing on local sports coverage?
Well, I think what it tells me is that somebody's listening. And when anybody is listening to the market, good things are going to start happening. People ask me all the time, how long I should write a blog. And I know you're trying to think, wait, we're diverging. No, we're not. I'm going to come back to this point. How long should I write a blog? Or what should we talk about in this? Or should I podcast? All these kinds of things. But what they're not doing is coming back and listening and saying, what at the core is it that people actually want? And inherent in that question about how long should my blog be? I'm like, until it's boring.
Yes.
Right? As long as you have something amazing that is relevant and that people want, keep doing it. When you don't have that, stop. And, for sports aficionados, of course, taking out all the things they hate about it and putting only the things they love. People are tuning. People say, oh, people don't read anymore. People don't do this anymore. People don't. It's always the next thing. What is this? People aren't doing anymore. You know what? People have become resistant and intolerant to crap. So, if this new machination of bringing, real sports, information, and I'm not a sports fan, except for, maybe the Premier League in Europe. But, if you can listen to the target market, and I would say only if you can listen to your target market, can you come up with a really great idea that will soar.
I love it. I love that answer. And what you said is there's a number of things that are just like pearls of marketing wisdom. The first is that I love that line that you said about how long should the blog be. And basically what I say, similar to what you say, is I say with about any kind of writing or creative, I say until it sucks. So like the length is until it sucks and yours is until it's boring. So we're on the same page there. So I really like that. And the second thing is the beauty of it is that's the great thing is you come from an art background. So you're not a sports fan, but you immediately, because you're a marketing expert, you immediately came on to the key point. And the key point is whether it's art or sports, two dramatically different things. It's about understanding the target and listening to them. And that was great that you hit on that. Let's dig into the part about mentors. So other than family, who are your mentors and how have they impacted you?
Well, I would have to put my first mentor as my great boss at in the credit card industry, Roger O'Malley. I'm a little bit of a high-strung person. I don't know if you can get that from this podcast. Uh-huh. I'm a goer. I'm a doer. I'm an opportunist. I'm a optimistic person. These kinds of things are awesome when they can be corralled. And at first I did not understand this boss. He was so, I thought, passive. On the other hand, he seemed kind of cool, and he just didn't worry about a whole lot of things. And I mean, he made me scratch my head more times than I care to remember. But, I would be busy doing this, and he would not check up on me. And sometimes it would make me so nervous. I'd go into his office and say, Roger, did you know I'm doing this and I'm doing this? He's like, yeah, I know. It's like, yeah, I trust you. I wanted him to know that I was earning my keep and doing my job. He's like, I think you're doing a great job. And he just did not micromanage me. And he, really took that trust seriously. I don't know. Maybe he really was checking up on me. I don't know. But I was doing a good job and the numbers showed it. And so he just didn't make anything else of it. And he really intervened a lot of times when things would get very high pressure in sales. And he was always that cool down factor. And it's something I still admire. And I certainly have not mastered. I get very wound up internally, about things. I'm a very social person, so, I'm very sensitive to our culture and things like that. But the I mentioned before that, entrepreneurship is an incredibly lonely experience. And so that kind of stuff can get very pent up in us. We're worried about this, we're worried about that. And, it's very hard sometimes as the owner, to walk into a meeting and being the salesperson too. And so, I've had to take a few pointers from him. Sometimes just chill out. It's good.
I like it. I like it because a lot of times we're attracted to leaders who share our passion and our beliefs, but have different styles. I've had a couple bosses who were very similar, high energy style like me, but then I had one that was a good mentor who was much, much calmer than you and I. And so I fed off of that too, because you and I are very, as you said, high energy and intense, and that's great. But then sometimes you need that calming effect. How do you work through the entrepreneur isolationism? Because I joined Vistage 5 years ago because of that. I felt the isolation got to be too much. I'm a self-starter, but yet I still felt I needed to have somebody to talk to. And I also know I needed someone to push me for the things I hated the most, because the things I hated the most, it didn't matter how much of a self-starter I was, I would still rationalize them away. So how do you work through the isolationism of entrepreneurship and being president of a company?
Well, I don't know that I've worked through it. I think I'm living in it. So that's the soup that I'm swimming in right now. And a lot of things do help me. Mentors. I like that you focus a lot on mentors, because I don't believe any of us do it alone. As much as I feel alone, it's not actually true. I have a husband that is kind of my secret weapon. He's a big supporter. And I mentioned, I'm the sole breadwinner. He's a stay-at-home dad. And, he's just pretty even-keeled. A lot of my friends call him Yoda. So, and they all would like to send their husbands to Camp McKinney, but he's a very even-keeled person, and he can a lot of times take that the pain of the feeling out of things. Yes, I know it feels that way, but is it that way? So that's very helpful. You mentioned Vistage, and I really like that organization. And this has nothing to do with Vistage, but this has to do with sometimes other peer groups. I found it very difficult because people, there's a time period when people kind of go in and portray something and they're not really being themselves. And that's very difficult. And the other mistake I see that people start making when they're trying to get out of this, isolation thing, is that they get involved in a group and then they start comparing themselves, where their business is right now, to someone who's much further along. And I have seen the negative effect in that. I've had a lot of clients running back to me saying things like, "Oh, so-and-so is doing this. This is what we should be doing." And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, I appreciate that you're learning something or that someone's got a great idea, but those are tactics. And so sometimes when we get involved in peer groups, I kind of have to take a step back and question and say, okay, you can be helped as long as you are helpable and you're very clear about what you need help on. But when we're unclear and we go into that, it actually doesn't end up solving the isolation problem at all.
I agree. I loved in the first episode you said that you're teachable and you're coachable. And I think that's the important point. I believe I am too. I hope I am. What I will tell you is I agree. I've fought going into any kind of peer groups for the longest time. I chose Vistage because you have your own board chair, if you will, where he or she does a one-to-one with you. And I think that's important because I saw everything you described and I still do. There are a lot of people that just aren't there yet, and hopefully they get there and they're about the personal and professional growth. But I'm not sure why they initially joined the peer group, because they don't change. They don't look in the mirror. They don't want to hear the feedback. So if that might have been me the first year, I don't know. But so I give people the chance and say, well, maybe it was they just weren't there. It took them a year or two to start listening. But I'm with you because some people come for the reason to compare. Some come for I'm not sure why, and they don't want to listen or they don't want to change. If you're there and you're committed to personal and professional growth, and you have a facilitator, chairperson, who can be there for you one-on-one. That's the difference between many other groups. I ignored a number of other peer groups for the very reason you said, because I thought if you don't really have that person who meets with you one-on-one, it can just become a group that ends up being similar size, age, style. So then all that does is you then just tell each other how great you are, and you go out and you network. And there's still value in that. You can get business from that. But I was looking for getting away from the isolation to be able to build 2 or 3 strong relationships, which I did with 2 or 3 of the members in my group, became personal friends, and I have that chair. And that's the big difference with Vistage, is I think you have that chair that works for you. But everything you said makes complete sense. You have to be coachable and teachable. You can't go there just to compare. You can't go to the group that doesn't have diversity of opinion. It's not just, it should be diversity of everything, but definitely diversity of opinion, diversity of age, diversity of backgrounds, diversity of look, feel, smell, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really powerful when you get it right. I don't have a peer group, but I do have a tribe. My tribe is Emerging Women. It's more of a movement, but it's amazing, thought leadership. And I actually, over time, it's funny, now I consult for them. But it really the relationships came naturally. And it's a lot of women who are really coming at, the business model from a very different perspective. And I find that incredibly helpful. You asked me about mentors, and I will mention one other mentor. And it's very interesting to me that the 2 mentors I'm mentioning today are male when I have a lot of other strong women in my life. But the thing is, I don't have peers of other women who are the actual CEO, owner, the actual entrepreneur. I have a lot of really great friends who mentor me, who are at the C-suite level globally, and I'm privileged enough to get out and talk a lot, and I've made a lot of great, connections, in my lifetime, and I'm very connected to a lot of those women. But it's interesting that, the other one who really mentored me in what I'm doing and helped me really shape my mindset for entrepreneurship is Brett Baker. And he's out of Trust Point Management. He teaches the Sandler system, and it was a life changer for me. And I get nothing for saying so. I'm such an incredible fan. It really is, a very challenging way and, to look at things. And probably instead of peer groups, I've probably done very well having coaches over the years and having that, that one-on-one, approachability. Christine Kane was a coach of mine for a long time, and she is powerful and amazing. But I think the change started when I started working with Brett Baker, because he would ask me very simple things like, I would say, make these statements that are, this has to be done, and he would always come back with CTO YBT, which is, couldn't the opposite be true? Wow. And I always to ask myself, it's possible. Look at this thing differently. And he also helped me understand one of the biggest things that really has helped me 100% across the board is the difference between who I am and the value of who I am as an individual and who I am as a role. So just shortly to say that, and I hope this is very helpful for somebody, but I am a 10. I'm a person, you have your own belief system about how you were made and what kind of value you have. But I can spend the rest of my day and I can have 3 sales appointments and lose them all and be down at a roll 3. I just sucked. I blew it. I blew chunks, the whole day. And that was where my role went. And I can walk out the door here within our culture. This is the biggest push for our culture, is that no matter what happens here, that's my role. And when I walk out the doors of Little Bird Marketing, I'm still an I-10. As an individual, I am a 10. I'm intrinsically worth a 10. And that has helped me separate the idea of the role. Sometimes I suck it as an entrepreneur. Sometimes I suck it as a boss. Sometimes I go home and suck it as a mom. Come on, you have to be real. But those are roles that I'm playing. And sometimes I do them well and sometimes I do them poorly. But at the end of the day, I need to be really connected to the fact that, well, I'm still a 10. I'm still worth it. And I can just start this thing over.
Tremendous advice from Priscilla McKinney, president of Little Bird Marketing. Are you using Audible yet? If not, you can get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/nobs. Try a book like How to Win at the Sport of Business. If I Can Do It, You Can Do It by Mark Cuban. You can download it for free today at audibletrial.com/nobs. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Priscilla, you brought out some really cool stuff. We'll get some of this on the show notes. CTOBT, couldn't the opposite be true? I love that. I love the individual versus the role, because I think that's what we do to beat ourselves up. We don't remember what you said there. Tremendous advice as a leader, really helpful to our audience and also inspirational. So those are the instances. What I love is you said sometimes you're a 3 as a mom, and you're trying your best and you're still the same person, but sometimes you're off. We're all off. And I think the fact that you can admit that is awesome and admirable. And that's how you grow as a person. Let's go the other way and talk about a learning experience when maybe you were a BS employee, a tough boss, or your communication was not what it needed to be. Looking back, when do you think you might have been guilty of some BS?
Well, I'm no, exactly, because I'm continually on high alert for it, because I can fall back into this. I know I'm in bullshit territory when I'm talking with people first about tactics and not about strategy. And there are a lot of lies out there about marketing. People are so confused about marketing. And, if you kind of look at, the age of advertising and what has happened, the power used to be in the big newspapers, the big radio, all this kind of stuff. And the big change, and, I can talk about it for 40 minutes or I can talk about it for 30 seconds. The big change, let's just all agree, is that the consumer is driving now. So, the consumer now they're driving. That's the best way to say it. So the marketing has gotten super confusing because, it used to be quote unquote easier to pay the big agencies to get out in mass, marketing. But now it's harder because the beauty of social media, now you can get directly to your consumer. That sounds awesome, but it actually is incredibly confusing. I love Guy Kawasaki. He said that social media is God's gift to entrepreneurs. And I believe that's true. The heart of what he's saying is that now we, as a small business, a medium-sized business, large business, we don't have to go through a middleman. We can go right to our consumer. The problem is we can go right to our consumer. And when we go right to our consumer with the wrong message, or we just start working in tactics and we don't ask better questions, we don't think about strategy, we don't ask why we must get up today and do this thing that we're doing, why this product matters, why this service is changing someone's life, then we are literally in bullshit territory.
Okay. So when's an example when maybe you were the BSer?
Well, that's what I say is like, I specialize now in, take that out. Okay, I'm going to go elliptical again. This is a little bit of how I talk. Sometimes I start talking and you think, oh my gosh, is she on point? And I promise you I will come back around to this. But one of the things we really specialize in here at Little Bird Marketing is inbound marketing, okay? Content marketing. I don't know what, everybody has all kinds of different words that you want to use. And when we first started into it, 6 years ago, I was excited about it. This is the way that we do this, is by content. If you do something of value, something that talks to your actual target market, this is going to make all the difference. There, you're going to find that one single person and have this personalized experience, and they're going to come to you. And you do that, and scale that up. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be meaningful. So I'm sold on inbound marketing, right? I love it. It's so me. It's like, it's content. It's good writing. It's, it feels right. Well, I've been guilty of bullshit when I have not really listened to a client and just said, oh yeah, inbound marketing would be great for you. Inbound marketing isn't really necessarily for everybody if inbound marketing is not going to achieve the actual client's goals. And I'll get a little bit more specific where I feel like I missed the mark. There are really specific questions we need to ask somebody about before we enter into content marketing or, inbound marketing, because it is a long sales game. And sometimes I get excited about the thing that we're doing. And when my ears shut down and I'm not listening to the client's goals, or if I don't now in my process, I force myself to listen to them because you have to go through this session that is goal setting, So I've taken that that possibility of me BSing again out of the mix as much as I possibly can. But I've been guilty of it when I've just slapped a solution onto a client who's coming to us without really listening to what they need. And so I kind of came elliptical to that. And I'm going to say that people who come to us usually are stuck or they're confused. They're confused about the marketing mix. They don't know where they should be. They're always asking me, where, Priscilla, what should we be doing on Facebook? Should we be on, Reddit? Should we be on this? Should we be on Instagram? Should we be using Pinterest whatever it is. Every moment, that silly question is changing. A year and a half ago, I was being asked, should we be a Pokestop? Seriously? I got a degree in cultural anthropology and put my whole, family's, money on the line to be in this position. You're asking me if you should be a Pokestop, So I think the point is that people are asking the wrong questions. They're asking where and which channel and things. And it is my job to cut that BS and come back around and say, why? Why must we do this? What is it why does your product or service help your target market better than anything else that's out there? Why must you do it? And so I'm guilty of that BS, I think, when we talk about tactics before we talk about strategy.
Great stuff. Priscilla McKinney, president of Little Bird Marketing. Now it's the chance for you to give back a little bit, because I'm sure you have a lot of ideas and tactics that you use and tools. So pick a tool that will help our audience tell their story, craft their message, or communicate to internal and external target audiences. It could be a tool like Google Trends to generate content ideas, since you talk a lot about content marketing, inbound marketing. It could be your favorite book, blog, or productivity resource. You've talked about a couple of people that wrote books and so forth today. Whatever you think might help your listeners.
Well, gosh, that's an interesting question. I'll start with one of my own resources because it hits at the heart of what we're talking about. When people start marketing and they don't know who they're marketing to, you're done. You cannot start without developing your ideal client personas. And I know personas or buyer personas or, however you want to call them, avatars, they become, they fall into that buzzword, but you need to take them out of the buzzword box and use it. So I have a free resource right on littlebirdmarketing.com/resources. It's the ideal client persona. And I worked so hard on that freebie because it is so meaningful. And there are, several people who have small businesses who can't afford us. Here's a free resource. You can do it on your own. I've taken the mystery out of it. Of course, when we do it for people, we go much deeper. That goes without saying. But my point is you have to do that. So my best piece of advice is whether you get it from me or get it or just Google it and find some other way to do it, you have to do your buyer persona. You have to understand something far beyond just simple demos. You can't just talk about it's a 55-year-old female. Well, but it's a 55-year-old female who what? What are they worried about? Where are they getting their news? What do they hate? What things turn them off? Are you ever going to be able to get them to be a raving fan? You have to know these things. So absolutely, however you get to it, do your buyer personas. The other thing that I think is a really handy tool is, a lot of people come into the content game or blogging game now far too late. It's very difficult to start a client right now in content. 6 years ago, awesome. I could find keywords, and that's the only way that, that we blog on keywords, being helpful, very good writing. But for someone starting now who realizes, oh my gosh, we absolutely have to do this. I kind of go back to, couldn't the opposite be true? Couldn't you not have to do that right now? So you need to I do agree you need to blog in order to boost, SEO and make the long game work for you. But you need to figure out a different way to do it than just starting at ground zero. And so the biggest tip I can give people for that is just a simple resource. Go to Google and look up whatever it is that you're working in. So is it marketing, or are you in electronics? Or are you in, I don't know, insert whatever it is, education. So you type in education blog roundup. And then you also want to go into you have to look at some of the tools. You can actually change in the guide that you want to see only things that are in the last 7 days, in the last week, so that Google will just give you the most current responses. You want to find out who are the information mavens in your industry, and find out who's rounding up blogs about that, or who's kind of commenting on it. Because the reality is those people are people who have probably started blogging 20 years ago, and they have the audience, and you would like to be mentioned in their audience. So if you could do a little bit of writing and get seen in someone else's blog, maybe even a roundup. It doesn't take a whole lot, because a lot of times they're not looking for a large piece. They're just looking for maybe a comment on something in news. It's just a really easy, pretty free, just take a little bit of your time way to boost that blogging when maybe you've started too late, or maybe you didn't do your blogging correctly to begin with, and now you realize you really have to have a restart. So that's a free little tip and trick. And then I'll mention one about Facebook ads that people don't realize a lot of times is if you have a Facebook ad, and you ever notice that, like when you first start it, it's like, wow, it's awesome. That's because Facebook loves Facebook, and Facebook wants to spend your money and they want to be able to, spend that whole budget that you have. So they give you a lot of impressions at the beginning. And this may change, but I'm just telling you today, right now, that if you have a successful ad campaign going on in Facebook and you're like, wow, that used to work for us tons. Now it's just, the stats aren't what they used to be. Take it off, even if it's the same exact ad, completely delete it and restart that ad just as it was. And I think you'll see those numbers spike up again.
Interesting. The inside scoop from Priscilla McKinney. Priscilla, was there anything you thought I'd ask you that I didn't?
Well, I will say this. I'll maybe give you more of a compliment. I think that you are so right on with the issues that you discuss here and there in different episodes about sales and marketing, and how really the organizations that are succeeding are really bringing sales and marketing together. That is absolutely our mindset at Little Bird Marketing. It is ideal to have a cooperative culture between the two. And I actually side with you on your opinion that marketing needs to be leading sales. And I know that a lot of people take the other tack, but we are more of a long-term strategy. There are ways to get in there. We have to make a right marketing mix. Like I mentioned before, you can't just do inbound, because that's a long game. You have to do inbound, and then, okay, what are the short goals that we need to make? And we have to use different tactics. So you have to understand the whole strategy in order to do it. So I just want to say, I'm on your side. I'm on team marketing. But I am also, more than anything, on team cooperation. They've got to be talking. They've got to be working together, because when those two are not working together, just go ahead and just go home. Close the business. It's not going to work.
I love a great guest today. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks so much. This was super awesome. And you're right, we could have talked for hours.
And to our listeners, thank you. If you like the No BS Marketing Show, please post a review. Your positive reviews go a long way towards spreading the word about the No BS Marketing Show. Thanks in advance for taking the time to post one. If you'd like to ask a question or suggest a guest or anything else related to the show, email me at dave@masssolutions.biz. Look forward to hearing from you. Visit masssolutions.biz for show notes plus additional marketing and messaging resources. Sign up for the No BS Marketing Weekly Update. You'll receive timely, valuable ideas to improve your marketing and transform your message. It's light, intended to be read in 2 minutes or less, and it just might trigger bright ideas for you. To sign up again, visit masssolutions.biz. Remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions